A young, struggling woman gave shelter to a man and his baby, unaware he was a millionaire with a broken heart. "You can't just stand there with the baby in this storm," Willow shouted over the biting wind that whipped through the town square. "Are you crazy?" The tall man with the dark beard looked at her with desperate eyes, clutching the crying infant to his chest. The snow was falling so heavily he could barely keep his eyes open. "All the hotels are booked," he replied, his voice almost lost in the roar of the wind. "My car broke down and I don't know what to do." Willow observed the stranger for a moment. His coat was clearly expensive, but his expression was that of a man completely lost. The baby in his arms wouldn't stop crying and his tiny hands were red from the cold. "Come with me," she finally said, turning towards her coffee shop. "I won't let a child freeze on Christmas Eve." It had been a terrible day for business. Only 3 customers all day and the bills piled up on her table like an insurmountable mountain. The eviction notice from the bank had been burning a hole in her apron pocket for 2 weeks, constantly reminding her she had 14 days to save her parents' coffee shop. But none of that mattered now. Now a baby was crying in the storm, and she wasn't the kind of person who could ignore that. "I'm Ethan," the man said as they climbed the stairs to her small apartment above the shop. "Willow Torres," she replied, opening the door. "And don't worry about the mess, I wasn't expecting company." The apartment was tiny, but cozy. A living room that also served as a dining room, a kitchen the size of a closet, and a bedroom that barely fit a double bed. Everything was clean but clearly worn by the years. "How old is he?" Willow asked, reaching for the baby. 6 months, Ethan mumbled, hesitating before handing him over. "His name is Leo." As soon as Willow took the child in her arms, something changed in her expression. Her eyes softened, and she began to rock him gently, humming a song her mother used to sing to her. "Poor little thing, he's soaked," she murmured. "Do you have dry clothes for him?" Ethan opened an expensive leather backpack and pulled out baby clothes that clearly hadn't been bought in any town store. Everything looked designer, from the tiny shoes to the embroidered onesies. "I'll make something warm," Willow said, returning the baby to him. "Coffee or hot cocoa, whatever you have is fine," he replied, looking around the modest apartment. "I don't want to be a bother." "It's no bother." Willow put an old pot on the stove. "My parents always said that a house where you can't welcome a stranger isn't truly a home." As she prepared hot cocoa with the little milk she had left, she observed Ethan out of the corner of her eye. His manners were refined, and that watch on his wrist seemed to cost more than everything she owned in the apartment. But there was something broken in his eyes, as if he carried an invisible weight. "Where are you from?" she asked, pouring the cocoa into her 2 least chipped mugs. "Boston," he answered quickly. "I'm between jobs and the baby." The question seemed to hit him like a punch. Ethan pressed his lips together and looked out the window where the storm continued to rage. "It's a long story." "Well, it looks like we have all night." Willow sat on the worn couch. "This storm won't stop until tomorrow, and maybe not even then." Leo started crying again and Ethan tensed, clearly not knowing what to do. Willow held out her arms without a word. "I don't know why he calms down with you," he admitted, handing her the baby. "With me he cries all the time. Kids sense things," Willow said softly, wiping the baby's tiny face with her sleeve. "Maybe he just needs to feel safe." As she rocked Leo, she noticed something that chilled her blood. On the baby's tiny wrist was a hospital bracelet that clearly read, "Leo Sterling Blackwood." Blackwood, the same surname as the company that wanted to build a luxury resort in her town, the same company that was going to displace all the local families, including hers. Her eyes shot up to Ethan, who was looking out the window, oblivious to her discovery. Willow's heart began to beat faster. Who was this man, really? And what was he doing in Pine Ridge Hollow just as her town was about to be destroyed? The storm outside roared louder, but the real storm had just begun inside Willow Torres's small apartment. Willow didn't sleep a wink that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the hospital bracelet with that cursed surname, Blackwood, the same name that appeared on all the legal documents threatening to destroy her town. Ethan slept on the couch with Leo curled up in a makeshift crib made of cushions. The baby had only stopped crying when she had calmed him, and that both reassured and worried her. At 6 a.m., she got up to make coffee. The storm continued to rage outside, perhaps worse than the night before. There was no way anyone could leave town today. "Good morning." Ethan's voice startled her. She turned and saw him sitting on the couch with Leo in his arms. The baby was awake but calm, looking around with those big, curious eyes. "Good morning," she replied, trying to sound normal. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in months, honestly." There was something in his voice that sounded sincere, vulnerable. Willow reminded herself to be careful. If this man truly was a Blackwood, he could be playing her. "Do you have formula for Leo?" she asked, gesturing to the baby. "Yes, but it's running low." Ethan rummaged in his backpack. "I only have 2 cans left." "Let me see." Willow took the can and frowned. "This is very expensive and also too watery for a 6-month-old baby." "Watery?" "Leo needs something thicker. You can see he's still hungry after eating." Willow went to her small pantry and took out regular powdered milk. "My neighbor has twins. She taught me this trick." She mixed the expensive formula with a little common powdered milk and gave it to Leo. The baby drank it all without stopping and then seemed satisfied for the first time since he had arrived. "How did you know that?" Ethan asked, clearly impressed. "In a small town, everyone helps take care of everyone's kids." Willow shrugged. "Don't you have family to help you?" The question hit him like a slap. Ethan looked away, and his jaw tightened. Not anymore. Willow felt a pang of guilt. There was something genuinely painful in that answer, no matter what his surname was. "I'm sorry," she mumbled. "I didn't mean to." "Don't worry about it." Ethan got up and walked to the window. "Do you know anything about cars? Mine made a strange noise before it completely died." "A little. My dad had a small auto shop before he opened the coffee shop." Willow put Leo on her lap. "When the storm stops, I can take a look. I'd pay you well for it." "You don't need to pay me," she replied quickly. "Neighbors help neighbors." Ethan looked at her with a strange expression, as if he'd never met anyone who refused money. The second day was easier. Ethan turned out to be surprisingly helpful. He fixed the coffee machine that had been making strange noises for months and managed to stop the sink faucet from dripping. "Where did you learn to do all that?" Willow asked, watching him repair the exhaust fan with tools he'd found in her father's old workshop. "My grandfather was a mechanic," he replied without looking up. "He taught me that a man should know how to fix things with his own hands." "Your grandfather sounds like he was a good person." "He was." Ethan wiped his greasy hands on a cloth. "He was the only one who—" He stopped abruptly. "The only one who what?" "Nothing. It doesn't matter." That night, as Leo slept between them on the couch, Willow taught Ethan how to make homemade hot cocoa the traditional way. "You have to stir the spoon in circles, not back and forth," she explained, guiding his hand. "And the secret is a touch of cinnamon at the end." Their hands touched as he stirred, and they both felt an electric spark. Ethan looked her in the eyes, and for a moment Willow completely forgot her suspicions about his identity. "Why are you so good to me?" he asked softly. "You don't even know me." "Because you have a baby who needs you," she replied. "And because you look like someone who's lost a lot." Ethan's eyes filled with tears that he tried to hide. "You have no idea how much." On the third day, Aunt Clara appeared. "Willow," she shouted from downstairs. "Open the door, I came to see if you were okay." Willow ran down and found her aunt shaking snow from her coat. "Aunt Clara, how did you get here in this storm?" "On Mr. Jenkins's tractor." Clara climbed the stairs with surprising energy for her 55 years. "I was worried about you." And she stopped dead when she saw Ethan. "Aunt Clara, this is Ethan and this is Leo." Willow took the baby in her arms. They got stuck in the storm. Clara looked Ethan up and down with those eyes that could see into people's souls. "Nice to meet you," she finally said. "I'm Clara Torres." "The pleasure is mine, ma'am." Ethan stood up respectfully. "Your niece has been very generous to us." "My niece is generous with everyone." Clara continued to study him. "Sometimes too generous for her own good." That night, while Ethan bathed Leo in the kitchen sink, Clara pulled Willow into a corner. "What do you know about him?" she whispered. "He says he's from Boston, that he's between jobs." Willow looked at the kitchen where Ethan was singing softly while drying the baby. "But Aunt Clara, I think there's something he's not telling me." "Like what?" Willow told her about the hospital bracelet and the Blackwood surname. Clara frowned. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely, but—" Willow sighed. "Look at his face when he's with Leo. Look at him when he thinks no one's watching." That man is truly suffering. Suffering doesn't excuse lies, honey. I know, but it doesn't condemn them automatically either. Clara watched Ethan for a long moment. She saw him making funny faces to make Leo laugh. She saw him carefully cleaning each tiny finger. She saw him whispering words of love that clearly came from the heart. That man loves that baby, she finally murmured. Yes. Willow smiled sadly. And Leo loves him, but he loves me too. It was true. Leo had started reaching his little arms out to Willow every time he saw her, and would calm down instantly when she held him. He seemed to have decided he needed two parents instead of one. Be careful, Willow, Clara warned her. Your heart is too good. You've been hurt once before. That night, when the storm finally began to calm down, Ethan walked over to the window and sighed. I can leave tomorrow, he said, but his voice didn't sound happy. Are you in a hurry? Willow asked without looking up from Leo. No, he admitted. The truth is, these have been the best 3 days I've had in a long time. For me too, she whispered. They looked into each other's eyes in the silence of the apartment as Leo slept peacefully between them. Outside, the snow had stopped falling, but neither of them wanted morning to come. My car will take a week to fix, Ethan lied on the 4th day after talking on the phone with someone who was supposedly a mechanic. Willow looked at him with suspicion. She had seen the car from her apartment window and it didn't look as damaged as he claimed. A whole week? She asked. Yes. A special part has to come from Boston. Ethan avoided her gaze. I hope it's not a problem. I can stay at the Town's Inn. The Town's Inn has roaches the size of rats. Clara interjected, having decided to stay a few extra days to keep an eye on things. Stay in Mrs. Olson's guest room, she rents it out cheap. And so Ethan moved 2 blocks away but continued to spend all day at the coffee shop with Willow and Leo. Do you know how to make real coffee? Willow asked him on the first morning. I know how to make instant coffee, he replied, carrying Leo. That's not coffee. That's an offense to humanity. Willow laughed. Come on, I'll teach you. She showed him how to select the beans, how to grind them to the exact point, and how to use the Italian coffee maker she had inherited from her grandmother. The secret is in the timing, she explained while he watched her every move. Too little and it's watery, too long and it's bitter. Ethan proved to be an eager student. In 3 days he was making coffee almost as good as hers, and the few customers they had started asking about Willow's boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, she clarified, but with less conviction each time, because the truth was that Ethan was becoming part of her daily routine. He opened the coffee shop in the mornings while she prepared breakfast for Leo. He helped her clean the tables while she served customers. He carried the baby while she cooked. It felt like a real family. Have you noticed anything strange? Clara asked her one afternoon when Ethan had gone for a walk with Leo. Like what? Like how a huge box of gourmet coffee arrived yesterday, and no one knows who sent it. Like how Mr. Rodriguez came to fix your espresso machine without you calling him. Like how the electricity bill arrived marked as paid when you didn't pay it. Willow frowned. She had noticed these things, but she had assumed they were coincidences or acts of kindness from neighbors. Do you think? I think your mystery guest has more money than he lets on. Clara looked at her seriously. And I think he's trying to help you without you realizing it. That night, Willow confronted Ethan directly. It was you who paid the electricity bill. He almost choked on his coffee. How could you? Ethan? I'm not stupid. Willow crossed her arms. Things don't just appear out of nowhere. Who are you, really? For a moment he seemed about to tell the truth, but then he looked at Leo, who was sleeping in Willow's arms, and his expression closed off. I'm someone who appreciates kindness when he finds it, he finally said, and who wants to give back a little of what he's received. It wasn't really an answer, but there was something so sincere in his voice that Willow decided not to press for now. The following days were the happiest Willow had had in a long time. Ethan learned to make pancakes. She taught him how to change diapers correctly. He told her stories of his travels around the world. She taught him traditional American folk songs. One evening, as they walked through the town square with Leo sleeping in his stroller, it began to snow softly. It's beautiful, Ethan murmured, watching the snowflakes fall on the Christmas lights. Yes. Willow looked at him instead of the snow. It is. They stopped under a lamppost and he slowly approached. His eyes asked permission, and she nodded almost imperceptibly. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, full of questions neither of them dared to ask aloud. When they separated, both were smiling. "Willow, he began. "Shh." She put a finger to his lips. "Don't say anything you might regret later." But he took her hand and kissed it gently. "I would never regret this," he whispered. That night, Ethan stayed in Willow's apartment. Nothing more than kisses and whispers happened, but it was enough. Leo slept between them, and for the first time in months, Ethan didn't have nightmares. However, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Ethan Blackwood. Willow could hear a female voice on the other end of the line. "Thank God. We've been looking for you everywhere. The board of directors is—" Ethan quickly hung up, but it was too late. Willow had heard enough. "Ethan Blackwood?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Willow, I can explain. You're the owner of Blackwood Industries?" Her eyes filled with tears. "The company that's going to destroy our town? It's not that simple. Did you know who I was when you got here?" Her voice was getting stronger. "Did you know I own the coffee shop they're going to tear down?" "No, I swear I didn't know." But Willow wasn't listening anymore. All the distrust she had been holding back for days exploded at once. "This is a game to you," she shouted. "Having fun with us poor folks before destroying our lives." "Willow, please." Ethan tried to approach, but she recoiled. "How much of what you told me is true?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Anything, even just a little bit." Leo started crying, startled by the shouting. Willow instinctively took him in her arms, and the baby calmed down immediately. "This much is true." Ethan pointed to Leo. "What I feel for you, for him, for this life we've built together. That's the truest thing I've ever felt in my life. But you lied to me." Willow hugged Leo tighter to her chest. "You lied about everything. Because I knew that if I told you the truth, you never would have given me a chance, and I was right, wasn't I?" Willow didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. "I want you to leave," she finally said. "Take Leo and go. Do what you came to do. Destroy our town and go on with your life." "Willow, go!" she shouted. "Go before I do something I regret." Ethan gathered his things in silence, with Leo crying in his arms. Before leaving, he turned to her one last time. "This isn't what I want," he said. "None of this is what I want." "Then stop." Willow looked at him with eyes full of pain. "If you really love me, stop all this." "I can't," he whispered. "I wish I could, but I can't." And he left, taking Leo and Willow's heart with him. Clara appeared an hour later and found her niece crying on the couch. "Honey, what happened?" "You were right, Aunt Clara," Willow sobbed. "My heart is too good, and again I've been hurt. But this time the pain was different. This time she had not only lost a man, she had also lost a baby she had come to love as her own. And in 2 weeks, she would also lose the last thing she had left of her parents." Ethan didn't sleep at all the following week. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Willow's face when she discovered the truth. The betrayal in her eyes, the pain in her voice, the way she had clutched Leo to her chest as if trying to protect him from him. Leo wasn't doing well either. The baby cried constantly and refused his bottle. Ethan knew why. Leo missed Willow as much as he did. Mr. Blackwood, his assistant Olivia, had arrived from Boston that morning. "The board of directors is furious. They've been trying to locate you for 2 weeks. "Wait," Ethan mumbled, rocking Leo unsuccessfully. "They can't wait any longer. The resort investors are threatening to pull out if you don't show up for Friday's meeting. And there's something else." Ethan looked at her for the first time since she had arrived. "Ms. Sterling's parents have hired lawyers." Olivia took some documents from her briefcase. "They want custody of Leo." His world collapsed. Ethan took the papers with trembling hands. "On what grounds?" "They say your disappearance for 2 weeks demonstrates that you are an irresponsible father, unable to adequately care for your grandson." Ethan fell onto the hotel bed. In 1 week, he had lost the woman he loved, and now he could lose his son too. "What are our chances?" he asked. "Slim." Olivia looked at him with compassion. "Unless you can demonstrate stability and a solid family life." A solid family life. Exactly what he had had with Willow during those 2 perfect weeks. Meanwhile, at the coffee shop, Willow tried to maintain her composure in front of her customers, but inside, she was crumbling. "When is your boyfriend coming back?" Mrs. Olson, the inn owner, asked her. "He's not coming back," Willow replied dryly. "And he wasn't my boyfriend." "Well, the baby certainly seemed like your son," the lady insisted. "I've never seen a child so attached to someone who wasn't his mother." Willow felt her throat clench. It was true. Leo had adopted her as his mother in a way that had been both beautiful and terrifying. Clara entered the coffee shop with a worried expression. "Honey, we need to talk." "What's happening now?" "The machines have arrived." Clara sat down heavily. "The excavators for the resort are camped on the land next to the church." Willow felt her stomach churn. "So soon?" "Apparently they've expedited everything. Mr. Rodriguez says they've only been given a week to vacate their land." Willow looked around her small coffee shop, the tables where her father had carved his initials, the coffee machine her mother had bought with her life savings, the photos on the walls of 3 generations of the Torres family. Everything was going to disappear. "It's my fault," she murmured. "If I hadn't let him stay here, if I hadn't—" "Don't be silly," Clara interrupted her. "Ethan Blackwood was going to do this whether he knew you or not. You're not to blame for anything." But Willow couldn't shake the feeling that she had been used, that Ethan had played with her feelings while planning to destroy her life. That night, as she cleaned the empty tables of the coffee shop, she heard a baby crying outside. Her heart raced. She peeked through the window and saw Ethan walking in circles in the square with Leo in his arms. The baby was inconsolable. Without thinking twice, she ran downstairs. "What's wrong?" she asked, forgetting her anger for a moment. "He won't stop crying." Ethan looked desperate. "He's been like this for 3 days. He won't eat. He won't sleep." Willow instinctively held out her arms, and Ethan handed her Leo without hesitation. As soon as the baby felt her arms, he calmed down immediately. "He missed you," Willow whispered, kissing the child's head. "We both missed you," Ethan said softly. Willow looked at him with tears in her eyes. "How can you say that when you're destroying my life?" "Because I don't want to destroy anything." Ethan ran his hands through his hair. "Willow, if I could stop all this, I would. But I can't." "Why not? You own the company." "Because it's not that simple," he exploded. "There are investors, contracts, people who have put millions of dollars into this project. And what about the people who live here? What about the families who are going to lose their homes?" Ethan didn't answer. He had no answer. Leo had started to fall asleep in Willow's arms, and she realized she was automatically rocking him as they argued. "Do you know what the worst part is?" Willow asked, her voice broken. "You made me believe we could be a family, the 3 of us together." "We can be," Ethan said desperately. "Come with me to Boston. You, me, and Leo can what?" Willow laughed bitterly. "Be your secret family while you destroy other people's lives. Be your comfort after you wipe out entire towns." "It's not like that." "Then how is it?" Willow handed him Leo, who immediately started crying again. "Explain how it is, Ethan." He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out because the truth was he didn't know how to explain the inexplicable. "You can't," Willow said sadly. "Because you know I'm right." She turned to leave, but Ethan grabbed her arm. "Willow, wait. There's something else you need to know." "What else could there be?" Ethan took a deep breath as if he were about to jump off a cliff. "The resort wasn't my idea. It was Eleanor's, my wife's." Willow froze. "Your wife?" "My deceased wife." The words came out like a confession. "She grew up in these mountains. She always dreamed of building something beautiful here. It was her last wish before—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "My God." Willow covered her mouth with her hands. "That's why you can't stop it. How can I betray her memory?" Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "How can I destroy her dream?" "But Ethan—" Willow felt her heart break for him. "She's not here anymore. The people who are going to suffer are." "I know. Believe me, I know, but every time I think about canceling the project, I feel like I'm killing her again." Willow then understood the true tragedy of the situation. Ethan wasn't a heartless villain. He was a broken man, caught between honoring his dead wife and protecting the living people he loved. "How did she die?" she asked softly. "Car accident." Ethan looked at the floor. "She was coming to meet me for dinner. If she hadn't had to, it wasn't your fault." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I know her." Willow gently touched Leo's cheek. Any woman who raised a child as beautiful as this, any woman who made a man like you love her so much, she wouldn't have wanted you to destroy innocent lives in her name. Ethan looked at her with eyes full of pain and hope. You think so? I'm sure of it. For a moment it seemed they would find a solution, that love could overcome all obstacles. But then Olivia came running through the square. Mr. Blackwood, thank goodness I found you, she shouted. Eleanor's parents have arrived with their lawyers. They want to take Leo right now. Ethan's world collapsed again. He looked at Willow with despair. Don't let them take him, she whispered. Fight for him. Would you come with me? He asked. Would you help us? Willow looked at Leo, who had calmed down momentarily upon hearing her voice. Then she looked at her coffee shop where the lights were still on waiting for her. I can't abandon this, she finally said. It's all I have left of my parents. And Leo is all I have left of Eleanor, Ethan replied. They looked into each other's eyes, understanding that they had reached a point of no return. Then I suppose each of us has to fight for what's ours, Willow said with a broken heart. Ethan nodded, kissed Leo's forehead, and walked away towards his uncertain destiny. Willow stood in the square, watching the man she loved take the baby she had come to love as her own, knowing she would probably never see them again. And in a week, the machines would begin to demolish everything she had loved too. Boston had never seemed so cold to Ethan. His penthouse on the 40th floor had the best views of the city, but it felt like a crystal prison. Leo cried day and night, and nothing he did comforted him. He doesn't like the milk he's drinking, he told Olivia, who had hired 3 different nannies in a week. Willow gave him a special mix. Do you want us to ask for the recipe? Olivia suggested carefully. No. Ethan looked out the window at the distant mountains. I've caused her enough harm. The nannies resigned one after another. Leo only calmed down when Ethan carried him, but he had constant meetings with lawyers, investors, and the board of directors. The resort must go forward, the board chairman told him. We've invested too much to back down now. What if we found another location? Ethan suggested weakly. Impossible. The feasibility studies took 2 years, Ethan. I understand you've been through a lot, but you can't let feelings cloud your business judgment. Meanwhile, in Pine Ridge Hollow, Willow packed her parents' last belongings. The excavators roared outside, waiting for the order to begin demolition. Are you sure you don't want to fight this in court? Clara asked her, wrapping her grandmother's plates in newspaper. With what money? Willow laughed bitterly. Besides, I've already signed the papers. There's no turning back. Ethan offered you money for the coffee shop. More than it's worth. I don't want his money. Willow closed a box harder than necessary. I don't want anything from him. But it was a lie. She wanted many things from him. She wanted his arms around her at night. She wanted to hear his laughter when Leo did something funny. She wanted that feeling of a complete family she had had for 2 perfect weeks. The phone rang. It was Mrs. Olson. Willow, there's a gentleman here asking for you. He says he's a lawyer. A lawyer? Willow frowned. From what firm? He doesn't say, just that he has something important to discuss with you about Ethan Blackwood. Willow felt her blood run cold. I'll be right there. The lawyer was an older man with a distinguished appearance, carrying an expensive briefcase. Ms. Torres, I'm Arthur Sterling, legal representative for the Sterling family. The surname sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. What do you want from me? We understand that you are intimately acquainted with Ethan Blackwood and his son, Leo. Leo? Willow's heart began to beat faster. What does Leo have to do with this? Leo is our grandson, Ms. Torres. We are the parents of Eleanor Sterling, Mr. Blackwood's late wife. Willow sat down heavily in a chair. What do you want? We want custody of Leo, and we need your help. My help for what? The lawyer opened his briefcase and took out several photographs. They were photos of her and Ethan walking through town, kissing in the square with Leo in their arms. Where did you get these photos? We've been investigating Mr. Blackwood since he disappeared with our grandson for 2 weeks. The lawyer smiled coldly. Imagine our surprise when we discovered he was living with a woman he barely knew, exposing Leo to an unstable and immoral situation. That's not true. Willow stood up from the chair. Ethan would never do anything to hurt Leo. No? Then why is the child malnourished and sick since returning to Boston? Willow felt her stomach churn. Sick? He can't keep food down. He's lost weight. Doctors say he's suffering from severe depression due to maternal abandonment. But I'm not. To him you were. The lawyer closed his briefcase. And when he realizes you've abandoned him too, the psychological trauma will be irreversible. Willow put her hands to her face. Leo was suffering because of her. What do you want me to do? Testify on our behalf. Tell the judge that Ethan Blackwood is a negligent father who exposes his son to dangerous situations. That's a lie. Is it, Ms. Torres? You yourself can confirm that Mr. Blackwood lied about his identity for weeks, that he used his son as an excuse to get close to you while planning to destroy your town. Does that sound like the behavior of a responsible parent? Willow didn't answer, because she had no answer. Think about it. The lawyer handed her a card. If you truly love that child, do the right thing. That night, Willow couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Leo's crying face, wondering why the woman he believed was his mother had abandoned him. At 3 a.m., she made a decision. She withdrew all her savings from the bank, bought a bus ticket to Boston. If Leo needed her, she would be there. It didn't matter what had happened between her and Ethan. An innocent child was suffering, and she couldn't live with that guilt. In Boston, Ethan paced his apartment carrying Leo, who had cried for 4 hours straight. Please, my love, he whispered to him. Eat something. Anything. But Leo refused his bottle, refused food, refused everything except physical contact with his father. The phone rang. It was Olivia. Sir, there's a Ms. Torres at the front desk. She says she urgently needs to see Leo. Ethan's heart stopped. Willow? Yes, sir. Shall I send her up? Ethan looked at Leo, who had stopped crying for the first time in days, as if he had sensed Willow's presence in the building. Yes, he whispered. Send her up. 5 minutes later, Willow stood at his door with a small suitcase and eyes full of tears. I came for Leo, she said simply. You came for him? They told me he's sick, that he's not eating, that he's lost weight. Willow entered the apartment. Where is he? Ethan led her to the living room where Leo was in his crib. As soon as the baby saw Willow, he reached his little arms out to her and smiled for the first time in a week. Hello, my love, Willow murmured, taking him in her arms. Mommy's here. And for the first time since leaving Pine Ridge Hollow, Leo laughed. Ethan stood still, watching the woman he loved comfort the son they both adored. And he knew the time had come to make the most difficult decision of his life. Willow, he said softly, we need to talk. Eleanor's parents are going to try to take him from me. Ethan sat on the couch, watching Willow feed Leo a formula mixture she had prepared from memory. They say I'm an irresponsible father. And what do you think? Willow asked without looking up from the baby. I think maybe they're right. Ethan's voice broke. Look at him. In a week without you, he's dying of sadness. Leo was eagerly drinking his bottle for the first time in days, his tiny hands clutching Willow's fingers as if afraid she would disappear again. That doesn't make you a bad father, Ethan. It just means he needs his complete family. His complete family? Willow finally looked him in the eyes. You, me, and him, the three of us together, like it should be. But the resort, your town, there's no town left to save. Willow smiled sadly. The machines arrive tomorrow. In a week, there'll be nothing left of Pine Ridge Hollow. Ethan felt like he had been punched in the gut. Willow, I never wanted... I know. She moved closer and sat beside him. Now I know. How can you forgive me? Because I understand the pain you carry. Willow took his hand. And because this baby needs both of us. Ethan began to cry. Tears of guilt, of relief, of love, of despair. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't something you deserve, Ethan. It's something you give when you love enough. That night, as Leo slept between them for the first time in a week, Ethan told Willow the whole truth. Eleanor died because she was coming to meet me for a surprise dinner. He whispered in the darkness. If I hadn't worked so late, if I had come home on time, she wouldn't have had to go out that night. How long have you been blaming yourself? Since the day she died. 8 months ago. And do you think she would have wanted you to punish yourself forever? I don't know what she would have wanted. I don't know her anymore. Ethan looked at the ceiling. Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying her memory by loving you. Ethan, Look at me. Willow sat up. Eleanor gave you Leo, the most beautiful gift a woman can give a man. Do you think she would have wanted that gift to grow up without love, without a complete family, just because you can't forgive yourself? But the resort was her dream. Was her dream to destroy families, displace innocent people? No. Her dream was to create something beautiful in the mountains where she grew up. Then let's do that. Willow suddenly stood up. But let's do it right. What do you mean? What if instead of a resort that destroys the town, we create something that preserves it? Something that gives jobs to local people instead of displacing them? Ethan sat up in bed. Ecotourism. Exactly. Small cabins that respect the environment, restaurants that use local produce, activities that celebrate the region's culture. Willow began to pace the room, excited. Eleanor wanted to create something beautiful, right? What's more beautiful than preserving culture and giving hope to families? The investors will never accept it. Then we'll find other investors, people who understand that true luxury isn't destroying nature, but living in harmony with it. For the first time in months, Ethan felt hope. Would you do that with me? Would you fight to save your town? I would do anything for our family. Willow returned to the bed and took his hand. But first we have to win custody of Leo. The next day they appeared together at the Sterling family lawyer's office. Eleanor's parents were just as Ethan had described them. Elegant, cold, and completely convinced they knew what was best for their grandson. Mr. Blackwood, Eleanor's mother said, "We see you've brought your friend. She's more than my friend." Ethan took Willow's hand. "She's going to be my wife." Willow looked at him in surprise but didn't let go of his hand. "Your wife?" Eleanor's father chuckled. "Isn't it a bit soon? Eleanor passed less than a year ago." Eleanor passed away 8 months and 3 days ago. Ethan looked at them directly. "And every one of those days I blamed myself for her death. But Willow taught me that Eleanor wouldn't have wanted Leo to grow up without love because of me. Leo needs stability," Eleanor's mother insisted. "Not romantic experiments. Look at your grandson." Willow spoke for the first time, pointing to Leo, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. "When was the last time you saw him this calm?" The grandparents didn't answer because they knew she was right. "Leo knows me," Willow continued. "He loves me, and I love him as if he were my own son. Isn't that what Eleanor would have wanted for her son to be loved?" "You can't replace our daughter," Eleanor's mother said with tears in her eyes. "I don't want to replace her." Willow approached and handed her Leo. "I want to honor her. I want this beautiful baby she left us to have all the love he deserves." Eleanor's father held his grandson for the first time in months. Leo looked at him with curiosity, but when he started to get restless, he reached his little arms out to Willow. "He needs her," the grandfather finally admitted. "I don't want to admit it, but he does." "We all need each other," Ethan said. "Leo, Willow, me, and you too. We want you to be part of Leo's life, but as grandparents who love him, not as substitute parents." After 2 hours of conversation, tears, and shared memories of Eleanor, they reached an agreement. Eleanor's parents would withdraw the custody suit in exchange for regular visits and a promise that Leo would know his mother's story. A week later, Ethan presented his new proposal to the board of directors of Blackwood Industries. "Instead of a traditional resort, I propose a sustainable ecotourism project," he explained with Willow by his side. "We will preserve the existing town, employ the local population, and create a responsible tourism model." "That sounds very noble, Ethan," the board chairman said. "But will it be profitable?" "More profitable than the original resort." Willow presented the numbers they had worked on together. "Because we will have lower construction costs, cheaper local labor, and a niche market that is growing rapidly." "And the current investors?" "Those who want to stay, welcome. Those who don't, we will return their money." Ethan looked around the table. "This project isn't just about profits. It's about creating something that lasts. Something we can be proud of." After 3 hours of debate, the board approved the new project by one vote. 6 months later, Ethan and Willow married in the town square of Pine Ridge Hollow, in a ceremony that combined local traditions with personal touches. Leo, now 1 year old, crawled among the guests, laughing and being spoiled by the entire town. During their first dance as husband and wife, Ethan whispered in Willow's ear, "Do you think Eleanor would have approved?" I'm sure Eleanor would be happy to know that the son she loved so much has a family who adores him. Willow kissed him softly. And I'm honored to love the family she started. At that moment, Leo pulled away from Aunt Clara's hands and stumbled towards them. His first independent steps were directly into his parents' arms. "Mama, Papa!" Leo shouted, his first clear word. Ethan and Willow looked at each other with tears in their eyes. It didn't matter how their story had begun, full of lies and misunderstandings. What mattered was how it had ended, with a family united by true love. As they danced under the stars with Leo laughing in both their arms, Ethan knew Eleanor was smiling from heaven. Love had not replaced love. Love had built upon love, creating something stronger and more beautiful than either of them had imagined. And in Pine Ridge Hollow, the lights of the new ecotourism project shone like promises of a future where tradition and progress could walk hand in hand. 5 years had passed since that Christmas storm changed everything forever. Willow woke up in her new home, built on the hill overlooking all of Pine Ridge Hollow. Through the window, she could see the ecotourism cabins spread harmoniously among the trees. The Willow's Brew coffee shop converted into the project's gastronomic center, and the local families who now worked as guides, artisans, and administrators of the region's most successful tourist complex. "Mommy, Mommy!" Leo ran into the room, now 5.5 years old, speaking perfectly. "Daddy says the tourists from France are arriving today." "Really?" Willow picked him up and kissed his cheek. "And you're going to help Daddy welcome them?" "Yes. I'm going to teach them how to make pancakes just like you taught me." Leo had grown up completely bilingual, speaking English with Willow and the townspeople and French with Ethan and international tourists. But more importantly, he had grown up knowing he was deeply loved by a family that had chosen to be together. Ethan appeared at the door, already dressed for work but with a smile that still made Willow's heart skip a beat. "Good morning, my love." He kissed her softly. "Ready for another crazy day?" "Always," she replied, returning his kiss. The project had exceeded all expectations. Pine Ridge Hollow had become an international model of sustainable tourism. The families who had been on the verge of losing their land now owned prosperous small businesses. The young people who once left town to seek work in the cities now stayed to study ecotourism and hotel management. "Grandma Clara is making homemade apple pies for the French tourists," Leo said excitedly. "Can we go help her?" "Of course, my love." Willow got up and put on her favorite dress, the same one she wore when she worked at the original coffee shop. "But first, let's have breakfast." As they prepared breakfast together, as they did every morning, Ethan told Willow about the new projects they were considering. "A hotel chain from Costa Rica wants us to help them develop a similar project," he said, pouring coffee into the cups Willow had inherited from her grandmother. "They say we are the perfect example of how tourism can benefit local communities instead of displacing them. And what do you think?" "I think Eleanor would be proud." Ethan looked out the window at the mountains. Her dream of creating something beautiful in these mountains came true, but in a way she would have loved even more. They had visited Eleanor's grave the previous month, taking Leo to place fresh flowers and tell his biological mommy about his new baby sister. Because yes, Willow was 3 months pregnant. A secret only the 3 of them and the town doctor knew. "Have you decided when we're going to tell your family?" Ethan asked, placing his hand on Willow's still flat belly. "At dinner tonight," she smiled. After Eleanor's parents arrived for their monthly visit, Leo's grandparents had kept their promise to maintain a loving relationship with their grandson. They came once a month, and Leo adored them. They had also learned to love Willow, recognizing that she had not tried to replace Eleanor but rather to honor her memory by giving Leo the maternal love he needed. "Mommy," Leo tugged on Willow's skirt, "can we go see the place where Daddy fixed your coffee machine?" It was his favorite story. How Daddy had arrived in a storm, how Mommy had saved them, and how they fell in love while learning to care for each other. "Of course, my love." They walked together to the original coffee shop, which was now the main restaurant of the complex. The walls were decorated with photos of the town's history, including some of Ethan, Willow, and Leo during those magical first days. "Look, there's the picture of when Daddy didn't know how to make coffee." Leo pointed to an image of Ethan with an expression of extreme concentration as Willow taught him how to use the Italian coffee maker. "Your father was terrible at making coffee," Willow laughed, "but he was very good at fixing broken things." "Like what things?" Like my heart. Willow looked at Ethan with love, and like his own. Aunt Clara appeared from the kitchen carrying a tray of delicious-smelling homemade apple pies. Leo, come here, I need an official helper. Leo ran to his adopted grandmother, who had spoiled him since day one. Clara had become the cultural coordinator of the project, teaching tourists about local traditions and ensuring that the town's culture was preserved and celebrated. How are the lovebirds doing? Clara asked, winking at Willow. Happy? Ethan replied, putting his arm around his wife's waist. Very happy and with news, Willow added with a mysterious smile. What kind of news? The kind of news that makes Leo a big brother. Ethan couldn't contain himself. Clara shrieked with joy and hugged Willow so tightly she almost lifted her off the ground. Oh, my darling, what wonderful news. What's happening? Why is Grandma shouting? Leo ran out of the kitchen. Willow knelt down to his height. Leo, would you like to have a baby brother or sister? The child's eyes lit up like fireworks. Really? There's going to be another baby in our family? Really? Ethan knelt beside Willow. What do you think? I think it's great. Leo hugged both of them. I'm going to be the best big brother in the world. I'm going to teach them how to make pancakes and how to speak French to the tourists and how to take care of the people we love. Willow felt tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks. This child, who had come into her life in a snowstorm, had become the sun that illuminated her every day. That night, during the family dinner with Eleanor's parents, they officially announced the pregnancy. There were tears, hugs, and plans for the future. Leo's grandparents were thrilled to have another grandchild to love and promised to help with everything they needed. After everyone had gone to bed, Ethan and Willow went for a walk through the town square, as they did every night before going to sleep. Do you ever regret it? Ethan asked. Making the decision to stay with me despite everything? Never. Willow stopped and looked him in the eyes. Do you know why? Why? Because I learned that true love isn't perfect from the start. True love is choosing to work together to build something beautiful, even when you start with broken pieces. Ethan kissed her under the same stars where they had first kissed 5 years ago. I love you, Willow Torres Blackwood. I love you, Ethan Blackwood. You and Leo. This baby on the way. And the beautiful life we've built together. As they walked back home hand in hand, they could see the lights of the town shining like earthly stars. Each light represented a family that had found hope, a dream that had come true, a community that had learned that change doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes change means that life gives you a second chance to be happy. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that second chance comes in the form of a snowstorm, a crying baby, and a woman with a heart big enough to save an entire family. In Pine Ridge Hollow, where the mountains touched the sky and dreams came true, a family slept peacefully knowing they had found something that would last forever. A love built on the solid foundation of honesty, forgiveness, and the promise that, no matter what storms came in the future, they would face them together. And somewhere in heaven, Eleanor smiled, knowing that her greatest gift had found exactly the home she would have wanted for him.